everybody, and welcome to the Wild Wahine. So we have a full moon today in Libra. That's going to be wrapping up this lunation before we go into the next new moon. So with the full moon, it tends to be a time of release. It tends to be a time where we're really gathering the fruit from all the things that we were building when we first planted that seed in the new moon. It's a time where we're sitting back and we're just allowing things to happen for us, and we're allowing things to be given to us. We're not really pushing out so much of that energy, even though, we do have the sun exalted in Aries and it makes us feel like we want to get up and do things. But we did set that intention, so we're just allowing things to happen. We're letting go of the things that are getting in the way of that happening. We have the moon in an air sign, and essentially when the moon is in an air sign, we have a very chatty moon. So it's a time where people really want to communicate, so they're talking, they're hanging out, you're Skyping with your friends, you're calling with your friends, you're hanging out with your friends, whatever that is. You definitely want to talk more about how things are going. It tends to be a much more intellectual time, so there's a lot of debate about stuff and conversations about things and challenging them and saying how you feel. It tends to also be a time where people are a little bit more emotionally detached in some ways, where they're processing things through their words as opposed to, feeling things in their body. You will feel things, of course, but a lot of the information is coming from your head. So the head is very chatty right now. And so maybe some of the sadness or the moodiness that comes from this time, because we're definitely going to be seeing that, is coming from the thought and over processing information as well. The full moon in Libra, a couple of things that pop right out is that we're trying to achieve some sort of balance and some sort of harmony. That is what Libra loves to do. Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus loves for things to be beautiful, for things to be, romantic, for things to feel good, for things to taste good, for things to look good. And by doing that, it's all about achieving a certain balance and harmony in things. And through that balance and harmony, it feels good, so then you can kind of relax into those things. So achieving peace between people, between nations, between any kinds of disagreements that you have. Libra doesn't always love so much to, buck the system, but it likes to work within the system to create change by making sure everybody's okay. So it's like a peace negotiator as opposed to like the war, we want to go out there and do things. Now, again, Venus right now is in her fall in Aries, which we're going to talk about in a second. So it's a little bit more of an aggressive Venus than we typically would see. But pretty much, even if she's on her little bit more aggressive phase, she's still trying to create balance and fairness between two, because it's through that she's able to really shine and bring about that really really beautiful quality that she has of just bestowing all the gifts and all the lovely things to us. There's a lot of adaptability with that and a lot of being able to work the system. There's a lot of charm that's used. Venus right now always is thinking about how can I bring two things that are actually not connected? How can I bring them together? And it can be a very selfless act in doing that. So we're going to see just in a little bit about some of the battle that's happening between what the self wants and how I can do things for others. Since Venus is in her fall in Aries right now, there is a big dialogue and a big conversation about my needs versus your needs. And we've been talking about this pretty much all week. I think I've said this a little bit in all my videos. What is it that I need for myself? And if I get some things together for myself, then I can maybe give to the whole and I can help everybody else out. Venus right now, as being kind of a youthful, when she's in Aries, there's this youthful energy. So she's really embodying the archetype of the maiden right now. And so if you guys are familiar with the triple goddess archetype, it's the maiden, the mother, the crone. For guys, it typically is the prince, the father, and the sage. So we kind of find these archetypes everywhere. And so Venus is carrying this real heavy maiden quality energy. And the movies that I like to associate this with, so you guys can get the archetypes and all of that, is the present day Disney movies. Not the ones that at least I grew up with, where the princess was just kind of whatever, sleeping half dead or whatever, and the prince came and he did all this stuff. Now we have much more empowered princesses who actually go on their own heroine's journey, and then they come back, and then they kind of come back with the knowledge, they come back with the tools, they come back with a curse that's lifted, and that's how they're able to heal their communities. And we see that with Moana, we see that with Tiana, I think Brave is in there, Anna and Elsa, and Mulan too. We see that. So we see these and I don't know, because I didn't see the newest live action Mulan. I'm just talking about the old animated Mulan with Mushu, which is fun. So she's going into herself and she's finding self first, and then she's able to heal and help out her community through that. So we're seeing that coming into self, figuring out what self wants, figuring out what self needs, growing within yourself, and then being able to connect to the community and helping out the community. And that's something that's important. And that is the dialogue that's happening right now. The two aspects that are happening right now that are important that I want us to kind of focus on is the moon is opposite Venus right now, and Venus, like I said, is in Aries. So this has a lot to bring up whenever like moon stuff comes up, and especially with the moon opposite Venus. It can bring up a lot of stuff about mothers, about mothering, about how you were mothered, about how you are mothering, and about like how you are kind of approaching responsibility in general, because that's essentially what mothering is. It's nurturing, and it's being the overall responsible one. Now, you don't have to be a mother to feel this. I mean, you can be a father, you can actually be a young person with no children. There is a quality of mothering that we're all doing, whether we're mothering our friends, whether we're mothering our pets, whether we're mothering a project, whether we're mothering a creative idea, anything like that. And our relationship too, because we all came from mothers, from whether we had a mother that was very present and very nurturing and very loving, whether we had a mother who was not present at all, whether we had a mother who was present but she was checked out. I mean, there's so many different boxes that we can tick with this, but it is our relationship to that and thinking about that as we're dealing with things, because the moon right now is representing that mother aspect, whereas Venus right now is representing the maiden aspect. So we can kind of see this interesting dynamic between mothers and daughters, potentially with younger and older people. You could be a young person and still have that. It makes me think of my son. He just recently had a friend that like, because they're all doing college online because of, you know, the Rona, and somebody called up and was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the talking points for tomorrow's, you know, lecture, you know, my books didn't come in. And he's like, you know, helping this friend out that's in his class. It's not even really a friend, you know, because she just didn't have all of the stuff that she needed. And that was a very mothering moment. And this is like, you know, he's a young college kid, still acting, still kind of holding that archetype. If it would have been more of a fathering thing, it would have been like, well, sorry, you should have got the book, too bad, you know. But moms do have a tendency, or the mother archetype does have a tendency to come in there with that safety net and to rescue. It's very oracle in the matrix. You know, you have the architect, which is a very Saturnian figuring, you know, putting this matrix together so it can like use human bodies as a battery. I hope I did not spoil the matrix, but you guys have already should have seen the matrix, I'm sure. I hope. If I spoiled it, that's just too bad. But you know, the oracle comes in there and creates this whole thing of the one, and a way for humanity to kind of sort of have some autonomy away from the machines. It's essentially hacking the program and hijacking the architect system because it wants to save. And so again, there we have with the archetype of the mother. Now Chiron is activated in this too, in this opposition, because Chiron, Venus, and the sun are actually conjunct right now. Chiron is the planet that is the wounded healer. I've talked about that in a few videos ago, which I'll tag in this video. Chiron is about like our core wounds, a lot of times our childhood wounds. So we might be thinking a lot, again, because we're thinking during this full moon lunation. And so we're thinking about things, we're thinking about our relationship to mothering, we're thinking about our relationship to even women, because we have this moon and Venus. And a lot of these things might be activating some of our core wounds, our core needs. Some of the wounding that we had from childhood might be popping up. Some of the positive things that could come out of this particular lunation is, you know, like deep romantic love, harmony, happiness, coming together with your family or with a mother type figure, or you stepping up into that particular role. Manifests itself as sister time or girlfriend time, or time with the female in your life, or the person who like who you identify as that, or a nurturing figure in your life. It could be about beautifying the home, beautifying the space too within the home. Some of the negative qualities of this, or some of the challenging things that might come up with this too, has to do with irritability, feeling kind of complacent a bit, being indulgent. Whenever we have Venus in kind of like a compromise type position, especially when she's in Aries and she's opposite the moon, in order to fill the void, especially if you have like a mom that wasn't present or you weren't nurtured enough, you could try to fill it with a whole bunch of different things. And that could be like shopping, and that could be food, and that could be relationships, and that could be whatever it is that you need to try to fill that void, you know, when you don't feel like you have that grounding, or you don't feel like you've had that nurturing. It could be a person being very easily offended. It can again manifest itself as mother-daughter issues, because that is something that comes up a lot during this time, or it can be issues with your female friends, or anybody that's a female in your life, or someone that has that archetype in your life, especially if they're potentially an older female. So we have another aspect that's kind of setting this off too as well, and that's the moon trining Saturn. Now a trine tends to be of a more positive aspect. It's more of a Venusian aspect. The moon is in Libra, as I said before, and Saturn right now is in the sign of Aquarius. So we have these two kind of, airy, one airy luminary, the moon, and one airy planet that are trining. And some of the things that can come from this that are positive, that's kind of adding to this whole full moon, can be that you form your healthy boundaries. You come to a place maybe in your life where you've healed some of those traumas, and this is on the more positive end, and you're able to reach out and kind of have that good conversation with your mother or with the other females in your life, or with people that typically would maybe be triggering, but you figured out a way to kind of negotiate around that. So give yourself props for that. It could be about organizing the home. I've talked about that earlier this week with videos. I'm just like, that Aries energy, clean, organize. So it could be that. It could be like constructing things, beautifying the space, setting up a home office or changing out your home office, or maybe putting the office in a different room. It could also be connecting with your parents, connecting with grandparents, because Saturn a lot of times has to do with like older people in your life, or any kind of older figure or mentor type folks in your life. Some of the challenges that can come with this is you could feel quite isolated. You can feel like you're a little bit, alone. There could be a lot of depression that comes up, especially with that kind of moon Venus thing. When you're in your moon phase, or that the mother or the father phase, that's kind of like the mid part of life, or at least you've done some things and you're looking back on the maiden time or the prince time, or even a time where you were just youthful in something, wishing you could have done this, or remembering your dreams that you didn't do. So there can be a lot of memory that's associated with this. Whenever the moon comes up, that tends to be a holder of your dreams, a holder of your desire, a holder of your memories. And so when it's in an air sign, you're just thinking about all of these things, processing all of those things. And sometimes if things worked out really good, you feel really good about it. If some of the things that you wanted to manifest or bring about didn't happen, you can feel quite bad about it. It can have like a bit of a heavy feeling, or a feeling like, oh, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, if I, and all those things. And you can woulda, shoulda, coulda yourself into a lot of sadness. Don't do that, don't do that. Family drama is also something that can pop up around now, and also just really trying to find a balance between like work and home life. Like, how do you negotiate that? How do you negotiate that with your space? How do you negotiate that with like your family? How are you, especially if you're working from home right now, which a lot of people are doing? How do I set aside time? How do I set aside limits for myself so I can actually like do the things that I want to do and enjoy my life? Because Saturn a lot of times can feel a lot like that little kid with the allergies, or that can't swim, and he's just like sitting there looking at everybody in the pool, wishing they could go outside and play, or wishing they could get in the pool, but they don't know how to swim, or they have really bad allergies, so they can't go out in the summer. And it's just this yearning to go out and play, but you can't because of all of these different things that you have, and your allergies, and the this and the that. So there can feel like a bit of restriction, like you wanting to let yourself let go, but you're not really able to because you're feeling a bit held back. So that in a nutshell is some of the energies that we're going to be working with this particular lunation. Be good to yourself, guys. There's a whole lot of energy that's going on. We have a lot of things that are happening for us right now, and so just you want to take that time to enjoy and relax. If you feel lots and lots of mind chatter, just take the time to quiet your mind. There's so many things you can do, like journaling, listening to music. Whenever you want to quiet the mind, I always look towards the sensual. All the things that look and feel and taste good, those things kind of get you out of your head sometimes because they're body things. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me so much for this conversation about our full moon in Libra. You will see me at the beginning of the week when we're talking about our astro forecast for the upcoming week. If you want to find me, you can find me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram at The Wild Wahine. And if you would like to book a tarot or astrology reading, or find out about your chart and find out exactly where all of these energies fit in what space in your life, you can contact me at www.thewildwahine.as.me. Thank you guys so much, and aloha.